How would you describe the Masterson Method and what it does to help horses?
The Masterson Method, it's a method of equine body work that you use to help the horse release tension in its body. And it follows the horse's responses as you're working on the horse. You pay attention to visual cues and changes in behavior so that the horse can tell you where it's holding tension and when it's releasing tension. There's a principle here of you don't try to fix something by you don't attack the problem. For example, if you know the horse has something going on here, you don't start here. You start somewhere else. Maybe you would choose the other side. Because if you have an agenda with the horse, with this body work, the horse picks up on your agenda and he braces, they'll internally brace against it. They just pick up on your intention. So it's important to have the idea that we're not trying to fix anything. We're making an improvement here, we're moving on, making an improvement here, then we might go back and do a little more, make another improvement, and then move on. Don't get stuck and fixated on trying to fix something because the horse's nervous system is just going to block it out.
And how did you first start this method?
I was grooming hunter jumpers on the show circuit, and I noticed when therapists, massage therapists or chiropractors or craniosacral, whatever, were working on the show horses, I noticed these subtle changes in behavior in the horse as they were working on the horse. For example, the horse might blink or the lips might twitch, just subtle changes in behavior that were correlated to what they were doing, what the therapist was doing. That intrigued me, what the horse was feeling on a really sensitive level, with the therapy.
When a horse acts up, oftentimes people blame it must be his training or he's being bad. How do you think about that in terms of what you know of the horse's body and how they do hold tension and pain?
As I learned more as I went along, as I started, turning it into a method of body work to help the horse release tension, I started to learn more that horses do everything for a reason. They don't, when somebody says, oh, he's being a jerk, they don't know how to be a jerk. They're just reacting or responding to something in their environment. So Bella's interesting because she's had some issues in the past. Things happened to her that have created a lot of tension in her neck and shoulder withers, her trunk here, and she's always apparently been sensitive back here, in the back and in the this area here. She's got a reputation of being a little nippy and bitey when you get back there, but that's really not her. That's not her personality. I think she really likes people, but she's just telling you where she's uncomfortable. If you're grooming back here, or when you cinch her up, it's uncomfortable. If a horse is acting up, there's a reason for it, and it's not just that because he wants to act up. He doesn't really want to act up. He wants to feel safe and comfortable.
What do you find is maybe the most challenging thing for people, either when they're starting the Masterson Method, whether it's conceptual about it, whether it's a technique, but what are people often most challenged by?
The thing people are most challenged by when they start learning this is how soft or subtle you can be with the horse. How sensitive the horse is to feel, and it's hard for them to get that less is more. But when you go down the neck and ask for movement, gentle movement in each section of the neck in a relaxed state, that's when you find the tension. That's when the horse feels it and he'll brace against your hand. And when you soften, that he'll release that tension. The hardest part is for people to get that. When that happens, you have to soften. So it's a little counterintuitive. So that's probably, I would say, is the one thing that may be the hardest for people to get when they start learning this.
When we were doing the weekend, I heard you mentioned several times about intuition, whether it's intuition of where to go on the horse, where to wait, when to stop. Can you talk a little bit about how that comes into doing this work well?
Intuition just comes into play kind of organically and naturally. It's not like, okay, how do I use my intuition? You start to get out of your thinking mind. And so as you get more comfortable with it and you start to get into a flow of how the horse works, then you stop thinking about it. And so when you stop thinking about it and all of a sudden something pops into your head, in terms of doing the body work, you may be doing something with the horse, and you do whatever you're doing, and then you step back and see what the horse has to say, because that's a big part of this. That you have to stop occasionally, step back, give the horse the space, take the pressure off, and see what the horse says. Through its changes in behavior. When you stop thinking and you're just observing, and something pops into your head, that's, to me, is intuition. Even if you don't recognize that there's an issue, he's telling you there may be something going on. So you'll find yourself going somewhere on the horse that you don't even know why you went there, but you saw something that you're not thinking about that you saw, and you just know to go there. We all have a certain relationship with our horse, a way of looking at our horse and what the horse means to us. And so with this method of body work, I think most people that take the course, one of the things they get out of it is there's a whole different way of looking at your horse, and how your horse sees you. I think they get how their horse sees them. It changes too. It's really important to keep in mind when you're doing body work with horses, any type of body work, is how the entire body works together. It's usually when there's an issue going on with your horse, it's almost always never just one thing. It's one thing that's connected to another, because the entire body works together. So with all of these techniques, whether they're the light touch, search, response, stay, release techniques, or they're the movement techniques, you're working with the horse's nervous system to release the tension. When we search for a response and we wait, we're waiting for the horse's nervous system to release the tension. When we're doing movement and we run into bracing and we soften, we're allowing the horse's nervous system to release the tension. Every once in a while, you have to step back and give the horse some space to see what he has to say. I call it seeing what he has to say, but basically you're giving his body time to feel what's going on and to process any change that's happened before you continue on. Because if you just keep going, it just builds up to the point where the horse just can't handle anymore. The horse's nervous system can get overloaded. Since we're working with the nervous system, the nervous system has to have time to process any change in the body. Any big releases or any change in the body, the nervous system takes sometimes up to 3 or 4 or 5 days to process that. When you get what the horse is telling you, it's a huge advantage, in your relationship with your horse. But it's when the horse gets that you get it, that it's kind of like exponential. And I think that's one reason that it's so effective, is because you're getting the horse's nervous system to release tension. And when the horse gets that you get it, that's when they can trust you enough, their nervous system can relax enough to really release the tension. But it changes from a method of equine body work where you're improving movement and performance in the horse into a way to develop real trust and communication with the horse.